we continue with the conversation on the status of corruption, and with me in studio two gentlemen to take us through that conversation. Seated next to me is Mr. Cornelius Saina. He's the branch chair Uasin Gishu County ANC Party. Karibu sana Mr. Cornelius Saina. And seated next to him, Advocate of the High Court, Collins Akenga. Many thanks and karibuni gentlemen. Our topic today, the status of corruption. Of course, it is not a new topic, but one that continues to be very timely if the feelings of Kenyans is anything to go by. We start with you, Mr. Cornelius Saina. Do you feel that this is the worst state of corruption the country has found itself in?
I think in my lifetime, I can say that we are worse off in terms of corruption. You will find that the president himself is always admitting that there is a lot of corruption in his government. He the other day wondered why the Gikomba market is not being done down here, 1 year down the line. So it is actually like Kenya is going to the dogs, and unless something drastic happens, we are not doing any better.
Advocate Akenga.
There is corruption, and corruption has been there since the independence. And it is not that it is to the worst. It's only that the current government is explicit. It always lays everything to the media. That's why you can see everyone is saying that the corruption in this government is higher than any other. There was corruption even in the Kibaki government, in Moi's regime. And the only problem was the media will not bring it to the public attention. So corruption is there and has been there, but it's not there to an extent that it's bringing the country to the brink or to the collapse.
I want to think, Advocate Akenga, you're not getting these things right. The corruption that is in Kenya today is so inherent that actually you cannot say anything about it. Because look at the budget that we have. Annual budget is about 3 trillion. When you look at it, the wastage will go beyond 700 billion. What can you call that? That is mega corruption. And it has never happened in Kenya, even during Moi's time. Because during Moi's time, our budget was slightly over 200 billion. And today we are going at 3 trillion, and our debt.
Okay, I agree with you.
Our debt has really grown.
I agree with you that the budget is 3 trillion. My friend, you cannot compare this time and this era to the time of Moi, when Moi was around. The inflation, whatever that is happening, the economy, even if you go to Britain, the economy is different. Kenya's economy is growing, and when the economy grows, you do not expect the budget to remain at 800 million as it was during Moi's era. The budget increases, the population has increased, so many other factors, and even the development that were taking place at that time. The cost of materials is different, so you cannot just say that the budget should remain static at 800,000 or what.
You know, unless we are not living in Kenya, maybe you are from utopia. Because actually, when you look at like construction of our roads today, you'll find that a kilometer of tarmac road costs close to $1 billion. Can you budget that 1 billion for a kilometer of a tarmac really? Is it really tenable? Or is it that people, most of the money is earned in people's pockets? I want to believe, actually, the truth of the matter is that Kenya is corrupt beyond measure in this regime. And it's upon the president to make sure that he gets his things right. Number one, his cabinet. I think it was said sometime, he needs to fire the cabinet because it is underperforming. He admitted the other day that his ministers, and I saw him admonishing even the minister for, the mayor for Nairobi, and not the mayor, the governor for Nairobi, Sonko, and the minister in charge, Masharia, in charge of industries. So it means that he is aware that his government is corrupt. Sometimes he looks like he's inept. He cannot do anything. And we have given him all the constitutional powers to make sure that the country is running. So what I want to say is that the president ought to come on top of things and stop the corruption.
Hold that thought. And I want us first of all to go to my colleague, Ida. When we come back, we will pick it from the president's point of view. Of course, he has all the instruments of power to lead the country towards fighting the state of corruption. So I want us to delve into that. Is he doing enough? Is there a follow-up after his tough talking gestures? But first, we take you to my colleague, Ida. Ida, please tell us where you are and what's going on currently, Ida. Corruption. We continue with the conversation here in the county of Uasin Gishu at our Eldoret studios. Just to remind you, my guests this morning, seated next to me is Mr. Cornelius Saina. He's the branch chair for the ANC party Uasin Gishu chapter. Many thanks for joining us. And next to him, Collins Akenga, an advocate of the High Court. Gentlemen, we continue. We had stopped at the presidency, and my question at this point would be: we have seen a tough-talking President Uhuru Kenyatta, but do you feel that there is follow-up immediately after these tough-talking statements? Do you feel there is follow-up from the presidency on fighting the status of corruption? We start with you, Mr. Akenga.
You know, talking alone does not help. But I agree the president is doing the much he could, the much he can, so that that corruption is fought. But you know, corruption is fought, when you want to end corruption, is between even me and my colleague here. It starts with that, because who is doing that? It is us. The president is trying the much he can, but there is that lapse. You know, one person you cannot fight. You cannot fight the whole institution up to down. Even if you say that he sacks all the ministers or all the cabinet secretaries, then he will bring who? He's bringing other people. And you know, you cannot ascertain that whoever is bringing is clean. People pretend to be good, but when they get into power, they get otherwise.
I'm suggesting that his own cabinet is seemingly letting him down in their fight against corruption.
I'm just speaking that from what my colleague said, that the president should sack the cabinet, the whole cabinet. That one you will sack, they go away, but you will bring others back. You remember he sacked the titles of the governor in Kitui, Angilu, the other time. But then people said that he has done something. He brought another crew in. People are saying that sack. So it's just sack. What are you doing? You are not doing anything. You are not helping the Mwananchi. In fact, what you are doing is just increasing the burden on the common Mwananchi, because you sack people, they go away, they go to court, they get order, they get costs, and so forth. The only thing is this: corruption should be fought by everyone. But let us not demonize it, demonize the government currently, because we are not in the government, saying that the corruption currently is so high. I agree, there is corruption, but it's not that much that it should just be taken to hell. The country it's in hell. No. There is
so we are not in a very bad place.
We are bad, but not that bad as my colleague puts it in, that we are irretrievably bad. It's not that much. Yes, I agree there is corruption, but not irretrievably bad as he says.
Mr. Saina, do you think the president is a one-man show in this, or is he not taking advantage of all the instruments that are around him in fighting corruption?
I want to look at it from a sober point, because sometimes we want to ask ourselves, why do we go to polls? We go to polls to get an executive for the country. And the last polls were really chaotic. And you remember that the president and the deputy president did everything in their power to make sure that they retained the power that they have. So I really don't see why it is impossible for the president. They did everything in their power to make sure
wrong. It is the Mwananchi who voted for them. So it is the campaign was good.
You see, the definition might be different because we understand these things differently. That one is acceptable. But then what I want to say is this. The president is given a lot of power by the Constitution.
Right.
He has the power to sack, fire, and hire. Sacking is not necessarily as a form of, I don't know, how can I put it? But then what I want to say is this. Sacking is as a form of punishment. You punish somebody so that somebody others can learn from that experience, that if I go and mess up, I'll be sacked. But then when our cabinet secretaries today look like they are permanent and punishable, they will do anything and get away with it. And then sometimes they are transferred. You see, you are sacked from the cabinet, then you are given an ambassadorial appointment, so on and so forth. It means he is still promoting corruption. Because if it is that you are corrupt, let that person be sacked and we move on. And I want to tell you about the power of the presidency. The presidency is so powerful. Look at countries like Philippines. Philippines, the president decided to do away with drug and drug barons. And I'm telling you, what he did was really, maybe it was unconstitutional, maybe it was something, but then he attained the goal he wanted. Today, Philippines has nothing to do with the drugs and so on and so forth. Look at Rwanda. Rwanda looks like a dictator kind of country.
Not looks like it is.
No, it looks like. It is not, because they are going to elections like the same way we just go to elections. Though he wins landslide, we don't win landslide. But then Rwanda, the president has really he has really stamped his authority. And you look at Rwanda, things are going right. And that's why a lot of investors from Kenya are going to Rwanda, because our economy is going to the dogs. So I want to urge the president, with all humility, let the president take his mantle and run the country seriously.
And yes, I agree
Let
with
him
you.
run it
I agree
seriously.
with you that the president should take the mantle and run things very well. I have a problem, especially when you say they suck. I agree that sucking is a punishment, but sucking does not help. You see, you agree even with me in one way, that you suck someone, then you tell him, now go be an ambassador in Austria. Then he's brought back and charged. The only thing that should be done is that you have engaged yourself in corrupt activities. This is the investigation. Face the law. Then when you face the law, you cannot face the law at the same time being appointed as an ambassador. Because when you just sack someone, he'll go and get another job. The only thing, let that person, let it be said that you are told to do this, you did not do it. So you are going to face the law. This is the punishment you should get. Stay there, feel the punishment, so that even if it is public embarrassment, at least you'll have it. Even when you are appointed as an ambassador in Uganda or Austria, people will be saying, but we saw this man, he was engaged in corrupt activities. But when you say just suck, you suck, people will go and get jobs. People have papers. They'll go and get jobs somewhere. Or even the same person has been, in fact, you are well aware. The person has been just, who has gone to the CID headquarters, yes? And others, they have been in the cabinet. They were sent home, then they have been taken somewhere else. And the same people are saying there were corruption.
Yes.
The issue is not about sacking. My issue would be, let there be proper strategies on how to deal with these corrupt people. Let there be, you know, the other time the president was saying that he sacked all procurement officers.
Right.
I don't know what happened next.
Okay. And we'll come back on that. And I want to believe among the strategies that are available for the presidency are the instruments of power, for instance, the judiciary, the EACC and the parliament. Gentlemen, when we come back, I want us to look at all these instruments and if they are working for or against the presidency when it comes to fighting corruption. But first, I want to speak to Commissioner Maalim in Nairobi. And Commissioner, if you can get me clearly, good morning, and a very interesting conversation that you're having with Ken Mijungu in studio. But I would be interested, as a journalist who works here in the counties, are you also having plans to devolve the academies or even that particular plan to the counties?
But as you are aware, EACC a few years ago had only 3 offices outside Nairobi. I'm happy to mention today we have 10 regional offices. That indicates actually where we are going, because our constitution says that if a function is not to be devolved, it must be decentralized. And that's what EACC is. A national government function is a joint effort of everybody. We are planning to give as much as possible other avenues where the people can able to take their courses. Should we find a county with the specific target number of participants, we have our regional offices where we can able to conduct. But at the moment, we are having to start the work at our Gong Road office at the Cliff, that is the Kenya Integrity building. But with the expansion of EACC, and I'm happy the next 1 year also, we are going to add 3 more regional offices. We are able to give the services where required, and we have our regional coordinators and leaders who can able to provide that, and we always ready to give. If a county or any other institution would like us to come to where they are and provide that course, we'll be ready to give that, and so that these people don't leave their places of work, and we provide them at their rightful place where they can able to do their work and at the same time undertake the course.
Many thanks, Commissioner Maalim, on that particular feedback. And of course, the challenge now is to your officers within other counties to ensure that that particular feedback from Wananchi is indeed taken into consideration. For now, NTV Today takes a short break. When we come back, Ken Mijungu will continue with his panel in studio, but we'll be right back also with much more from here in our Eldoret studios from the county of Uasin Gishu. Before A break, gentlemen, to Nairobi. I wanted us to talk about, or I did ask you to start pondering around the instruments that the president has at his disposal and if they are working for or against him when it comes to the fight against corruption. For instance, EACC, the provision of laws that is under the judiciary and even parliament. I'll start with you, Mr. Cornelius Saina, and if you're just joining us, dear viewer, Mr. Cornelius Saina, our panelist in studio, is the acting chair of ANC Uasin Gishu chapter, and next to him, Advocate Collins Akenga. We start with you, Mr. Cornelius Saina. Do you think all these instruments are working for or against the presidency in the fight against corruption?
I want to believe the constitution we had in 2010 sorry, did us very good because it gives us institutions that are working interdependently, and then they are independent of each other. I want to say these institutions should have been utilized much better by this government because, number one, when you look at the judiciary under Maraga looks to be determined to make sure that things are done right.
Yes.
So it is only the goodwill from the executive that he requires to make sure that things are running properly. And then when you look at Parliament, we cannot blame Parliament for what is happening in Kenya today because actually the executive took this Parliament hostage. All things that are, or legislation they want to go through, they always force them through.
Yes.
So that's why I'm skeptic about the cry from the executive that they cannot perform because of bureaucrats and the constitution and so on and so forth. Why is it that when they want to do their things, they do them and do them right?
Right.
And when it matters, things that matters to Kenya, they don't actually follow them to the end. It means that there is a lot of reluctance, or the government is not willing to make sure that Kenyans are comfortable. Sometimes you might think that this government wants to make Kenyans so poor so that they can rule them forever, which is a very bad thing to happen to an independent and 21st century nation like Kenya. So I want to believe the institutions that are there doing their work, and when they are abating corruption or other forms of ills to the country, it is with the executive condone the same. I want to believe so.
Advocate Akenga, we keep hearing statements like the law is very clear. How come the law is seemingly not very clear when it comes to the status of corruption in the country?
The law still is very clear, especially with the judiciary. And the people just misunderstand what the judiciary should do. Judiciary is there to try. Yes, when a case is presented before a judge or a magistrate,
right,
the judge is the only person who is at the central point. It's just to listen to both sides. If there is evidence presented by the state,
right,
that is by the prosecutor. If that evidence is enough, the court will proceed and convict the person. If the evidence is not enough, the law still remains very clear. You are not going to send someone to gallows when that person is innocent. Yes, so the law still remains very clear, and the judiciary is doing its work. Everyone is present as the judiciary. There is nowhere they have said that the judiciary did not sit on a particular day or refused to try that person. The judiciary has always been trying people. But you are not going to force the judiciary, tell them that we are the judiciary, we have sent you someone, you have said this person is corrupt, we need you to give that person a penalty or a sentence of 10 years. How? That is against the constitution, that's against the law. We only go by the evidence that is there. If you find that Akenga is corrupt, bring the evidence. I stole from where? How did I do it? The court will deal with it.
Fair enough.
Yes, and you know, there are some institutions that are doing their work. Currently, everyone is saying that the DPP is now doing his work, the DCI is doing his work, and everyone is saying, what we should remember, they are doing the work very well, I agree. But let them bring the evidence, that is cogent, that will ensure that those people, the culprits, whatever they are presenting to court, they are dealt with, and when the evidence is presented before the judge, is such evidence that will bring a conviction upon the suspects. Yes, so there are parties that are working, but I would not want to agree with my colleague that the government wants to make everyone poor. You see, this government, the government like members of parliament. The jurisprudence is that when you elect your member of parliament, I don't know where your member of parliament comes from. Mine is different. His is different. No one forced you to elect that person. So when you as a constituency decides to elect that person, the jurisprudence is that you have given that person the power to represent you. So if you elected a corrupt person or a mad person, it is you people. You are blinded by money. And when he goes to parliament, instead of legislating, and mark you, you said he's the acting chair of Amani National Congress. You are the chair?
Oh, the chair.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yes.
He's the chair of Amani National Congress, where Mr. Mudavadi said, this is the opposition. They were in NASA. And now there is no opposition.
We are the
All
opposition.
of them, they have joined the government. So there is no opposition.
We are officially the opposition.
There is nothing that you can say that is the government that when they have a motion, they just agree and pass it what they want. Even for them, they have joined the bandwagon. So you cannot say that we are here to say that corruption. And by the way, this corruption is not among the key, the key 4 issues that the Jubilee government promised.
The big 4.
The big 4. Is NASA that promised to fight corruption. Anyway. So what are they doing? They're in parliament. Have they even come up with anything, the opposition or like members who are not aligned to the government? Have they brought up anything to show that we are really fighting this corruption? Motions go to...
Fair enough. And do you want a right of reply or do I move to my next question?
No, I wanted to say this. As NASA, especially as ANC, we are taking our role as opposition very seriously. And you are not part of government in this government. And it is... as
ANC?
Yeah, as ANC, as a party. Because when you look at our party leader, he has always said the right things that Kenyans must do. And he has advised this government to make sure that they are doing their things in the right way. You remember, he suggested that the president forms a commission of inquiry about the sugar issue. Because the sugar issue is so deep. And without the commission of inquiry, Kenyans will never know the truth.
That one I really disagree with him. Why would you even form a commission of inquiry? That is a state where in fact, you are Mr. Mudavadi.
And the 5th president.
Yes. Mr. Mudavadi is returning us somewhere to where they were with Moi. Commission of inquiry, so many which do not, the reports come, they are not implemented. We don't want those commission of inquiries.
Actually, the truth of the matter, Mr. Akenga, with all due respect, commission of inquiries will always bring facts on the ground. Because without such facts, the country will not move forward. And that is why he is insisting on the commission of inquiry, because there is nothing that is happening. It is blame and counter blame and counter blame, and you heard what happened in parliament about the bribery that happens in parliament. So how are Kenyans going to know the truth about this matter, the sugar matter, if there is no commission of inquiry? What other route are we supposed to follow to get these facts?
And let me cut short, gentlemen, as we wind up, I want us to look into our value systems. Is this what is probably failing us as a country, our value system, such that you noted that if you hire, let's say, Wangui as CS today, and I am involved in a corruption scandal, then you take me off and put Advocate Akenga, then the replica will pretty much be the same. So should we probably, as a country, look into our value systems?
Thank you very much. I want to think that our country, especially at an individual level, we really need to take our country seriously. Okay. Because what we are doing as Kenyans is pitiful. That is from the executive to the common mwananchi. Because this corruption is so inherent, sometimes you see people doing corruption and then he's defended by their people, huyu ni mtu wetu, so on so forth, and then the corruption becomes politics, and then we don't tackle corruption. We need to tackle corruption head on and make sure that we are getting our values right.
Thank you. Very quickly, Advocate Akenga, as we wind up.
Yes, our values matter a lot, and it seems that there is a decade in the values that we treasured earlier on. So you fix this person today, and unfortunately, what happens is that you remove Akenga, you replace someone there who is just nearly worse than maybe Akenga. So the values really, people, they have gone to an extent that they do not look at the values. They have put it under, they're saying that even if I do this, even if I try to practice that integrity, the other people are doing. the otherwise. So if I do this, I may be found the only one who is trying to treasure values of integrity of this and this. So let me just join the bandwagon and proceed. But at least if each and every Kenyan, you know, corruption is not done by you, is not being done by the president. Is us, me, you, and him. So let us examine ourselves as Kenyans. Even that 50 bob bribe you give, it starts there. Yes, even the sweet you give to a child so that he does not cry. Yes, that's what it starts there. So let us try and do something on it from our own house. When you go to the house in the evening, try and reduce the level of corruption in your house so that when you come back to work, that corruption, you have reduced it. And when we appoint you to another level, you are like 0 or at least 0.1. Yes.
Okay, many thanks, gentlemen. And still following up with this conversation, I would now like to pose a question to Commissioner Maalim, who is in our Nairobi studios with Ken Mijungo. And Commissioner, if you can hear me, we understand that that particular academy set up by the EACC rather is functioning, and the monies that the EACC has recovered from matters corruption. So I think it would be interesting for you, Commissioner Maalim, if you may, to try and explain to us how much monies have you recovered so far, and from where in specific in setting up that particular academy. Commissioner?
First of all, to correct you, I cannot really understand where that information came from, that the money that we are setting up the academy is from the money we recovered. The money recovered is usually sent back to the National Treasury. But of course, EACC has been having this plan as it's part of its constitutional mandate to undertake such activity, and we have been planning for the various financial years until we came. And where we are hosting, as I mentioned, is along Gog Road, where we call CLIF, the Kenya Integrity Forum building, offices. It's our offices which we have been using before, and we have got areas where we have identified classes and other places. To come to what have we done, and I think also Ken raised what is magic of late, what's happening. I think we are happy that a lot has been done, and as EACC, we try our best to make sure that we get results for whatever we do. Just to mention, the 2017-2018, we had 79 cases that were completed, and out of that, 39 of them were convictions. This is really almost 80% of convictions. We had about 393 assets that have been identified and recovered from various parts of the country, totaling almost up to 10.7 billion. That's including the former mayor's office, house of Nairobi. We have also disrupted, and this is very important, corruption, disrupting the effect of the happening of corruption is one of the most effective for us, because when you investigate, you use other resources to investigate and deal with the culprit. But to prevent before the money is laundered or is misappropriated is very crucial. And I'm happy to mention that we have disrupted corruption worth 20.7 billion shillings. This is really a lot of successes, and I am sure this is not EACC only. This is the efforts from the entire people of Kenya, and we are sincerely appreciate, because it is the Kenyans who bring this information. They're the ones who give us this, and we are happy that we are having some such results. So these are some of the things which we have achieved recently. And for the money, I don't think that money which we are setting is money recovered. Money which is recovered is usually sent back to the National Treasury, and they are as part of the government for further appropriation. Thank you.
Many thanks, Commissioner Maalim, for that clarity. And of course, my colleague Ken Mijungo will be taking you on with some more questions and conversations around the state of corruption here in the country from our Eldoret studios. Now we take you to Nairobi with my colleague Ken Mijungo to continue with the conversation of the day. Ken?